Today we are in 1 Samuel chapter 12. And I actually have a title this week, which normally never happens, but it's How Soon They Forget. And it shouldn't just be they. Let's change it to How Soon We Forget. And I was looking up a quote because it was in my brain, and I've heard it said a bunch of different ways, but I actually found the author of the quote, and it's George Santayana, I think is how you say his name. It says, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." I heard a person recently ask a question. They said, how did I think it was probably in a chat thread, or not one of ours, but just going through something online, said, how could they see all those wonderful things that Yah did and then keep breaking Yah's law, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you the Hebrew word at the beginning. It's not the word I'm going to deal with immediately, in a sense, but I'm going to give you the word so it can be in your head. So what does it mean to forget? We've been talking about how the action or the way we define a word drives how we live out our lives. And so for most people, when they think forget, they have this idea of like, I know this thing, but I just can't recall it, right? So if I forgot something, it's normally, I know where it is, but I just can't put my finger on it. Does that make sense? For most of us, if we say, oh, I forgot, when somebody brings it to your remembrance, automatically remember. So that's not too far away from the Hebraic understanding of what it means to remember, but it stops short of the action behind it, because see, for us, once we forgot something, somebody brings to our remembrance, like, oh, I remember that, but you're not necessarily going to do anything about what you forgot. Hebrew requires you to do something about the things which we forget. Okay, so the Hebrew word for forget is shakak. So shin. I'll write it. See my pen? Pen fails me. We went with no technology and now no pen. All right, let's grab another pen. This one's going to be a permanent marker, but it'll come off. All right. Shin. Can't see that either. This is great.
What did you wipe it with?
Kaf. I wiped it with just a regular pen, but this is the pen that's in my bag.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. I just need another pen.
A dry erase pen?
Yeah.
Let me go see if I have one.
Give me 1 second. In your teaching tools.
It's not when we go to the classroom.
Shin, Kaf, and then, why did I like this? And I can't erase it. Shin, Kaf, Het. I'm actually writing paleo since I wrote it with permanent marker. All right, Shin, to eat, consume, destroy. Kaf, palm of hand to open. And then you have Het, which is going to be tent wall, fence, separation. So shin, eat, consume, destroy. Kaf, palm of hand to open. Het, fence, wall, tent wall, separation. So the Hebraic definition of to forget is to stop or to cease something. So something's in your hand. It's something that can be eaten or consumed, or a blessing. To pretty much consume it and then to fence yourself in. So that's what forgetting does for you as a Hebrew. When you forget what Yah has done for you, the blessing is devoured, and then you're fenced in, and it's funny, most of us know, hemmed in with unfavorable circumstances. If you're not blessed, you're separated to the cursing. So this the easiest term is the term chastise. So to forget means to be chastised. Why? Chastisement, when we forget, or reprove or rebuke when we forget, is to put you back into remembrance. So we don't see a person reminding us of where we fell short or forgot something necessarily as chastisement or reproof or rebuke. That's exactly what it is. A person saying, hey, remember when you said you're going to da-da-da-da-da? And you're like, oh, why? That's the idea of being reproved or reproved or reminded of what you were supposed to be doing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're going to look at 1 Samuel 12. And what happens with 1 Samuel, and we're not really going to use this anymore, so I can turn the camera to me. So what happens with 1 Samuel is that in 1 Samuel chapter 12, is he's going to renew the kingdom, like we talked about last week. If you missed last week, the video's up on chapter 11. He's going to renew the kingdom, and we talked about the idea of what a renewal of a covenant meant, and how when a covenant is renewed, it's not renewed with new framework, it's the reminding of the old framework. You didn't do it right the first time, that's why we have to renew it in the first place. So why would I give you something else when you didn't do the first thing I did right? You didn't do that one right. Right. Okay. So in chapter 12, we get to see what it looks like when the covenant is renewed. And so what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to remind us all of all the things that we've forgotten up until this point. Okay. And as Samuel's going through, I'm going to bring out the verses that he's actually using. And it's not verses, it's the story. Oftentimes we think about when Moshe rehearsed the words of Yah to the Israelites, and when Joshua did it, we think that they're standing up there like this. Okay, this is what Yah has done for us. No, they had remembered it. It was so fresh on their minds. So you take a person like Samuel, he's getting ready to rehearse back to them all that Yah has done. And what stuck out to me the most, and I'll give you this up front, it seems that only the people who are able to remember Yah's faithfulness and walk with Yah are the ones who Yah did not forsake. They did not forget. And so that idea of constantly remembering where you have been and where you're going with Yah is what keeps you on your path. And I'm going to prove it without a shadow of a doubt throughout scripture on how that looks and what it looks like to Yah. Because one of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier was people forget, and then people say, how did the Israelites transgress Yah? They saw this is right in front of their face. How did they? And so my question is, how do we do it? How are we going to do it if we haven't yet? And how do we recover from it when it happens? Because when Moshe, and we'll get to it, when Moshe makes a statement, he says, and when I die, and when you forget, he didn't say if, when you do, let me tell you how to get back on track. Let me show you what it looks like to forget. To forget, we talked about, means to be chastised, but also means to cease from doing. If you stop doing it, means you forgot. So one of the most frustrating things probably in relationship, whether it's intimate relationship with your spouse or with a friend, is when a person says they're going to do something and they start off doing it a little bit and then immediately revert back to the way that they were. And it's like, what happened between the first 3 weeks when you're like, oh, I'm going to take out the trash and we're going to have date night, and or your friend like, oh girl, I'm going to come by and we're going to organize your closet, and then they come by 2 times and then you're like, you waiting, I'm here. And the person never shows up. Why? They forgot. And because they forgot, they stopped doing what they said they were going to do. When we forget Yah, we stop doing what we say we're going to do. So I'm also going to show you some of the things that remind us on a constant basis to keep doing what we said we're going to do for Yah. Okay. So kind of the outline of this whole thing goes like this. I'm going to give you guys a lot of verses. Actually, so that I don't just bore you guys. Well, I'll read them to you, but I might move through them a little fast. Okay. I'm going to put this in the link portion of the video. Okay, so you go back in. Thank you. Because it's like about 40 of them. Okay. So the outline goes like this. Samuel testifies his integrity. He reproves the people of ingratitude. He terrifies them with thunder. Okay, so that's going to happen. There's going to be a storm. And then he comforts them with Yah's mercy. All right, let's turn to 1 Samuel chapter 12. And Samuel said to all Israel, behold, I have hearkened unto your voice, and all ye have said unto me, and have made a king over you. And now behold, the king walking before you, and I am old and gray-headed, and behold, my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my childhood unto this day. Can we
Right.
affirm that Samuel's telling the
Yes,
truth?
yes.
We've been there, right? We read through it.
Uh-huh.
Behold, here I am, witness against me before YHWH and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? Or whose ass have I taken?
Mm-hmm.
Or whom have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? Or of whose hand have I received any bribe to blind mine eyes therewith? And I will restore it unto you.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So he comes out pretty much with guns blazing. Like, before we even move into me reproving you, I have to first put myself up for examination.
Wow.
So, before I even say anything about what you guys got going on, let's deal with me first. And that is the position of leadership. It's always me first.
Right.
I'm going to put me out there, and then you can say, okay, if they said, oh, you actually didn't give back, so he said, then I need to repay it to you before we can even start off on an equal playing field. Before Yah can use me, I have to first make sure that before I speak to you, I've done right by each and every one of you. Right? So he comes out proper.
Good.
He's following in Yah's way, even in his old age. Okay? And they said, thou hast not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither hast thou taken aught of any man's hand. And he said unto them, Yahuwah is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day, that ye have not found aught in my hand. And they answered, he is witness. From this point forward, it shifts from a situation of, okay, now Yah's getting ready to say, okay, now I have something to say. And now nobody can say anything against what he has to say, right? So now his good cannot be evil spoken of. So once he starts telling them where they transgress, they can't say, well, you did. Y'all told me I didn't. I did. I lived amongst you. I walked amongst you. So you've confirmed before me and Yah and his witnesses that I've not defrauded you. So now you're not going to be able to play that whole blame shift, gaslight, turn it back around on me. It's not going to happen from this point forward. Okay? Most people can't do that, by the way. Because most people, your pride is not in a position that will allow you that if somebody did say, well, actually, you did do X, Y, and Z, you would argue with him, right? He was willing at that moment to say, whatever I've done, I'm going to repay it so I can move forward and do Yah's work. That's the proper position.
Like clean his hands before he go forth.
Yes. So, he says, and Samuel said unto the people, it is YHWH that advanced Moses and Aaron, and that brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. Immediately he goes right into rehearsing history. Turn with me to Numbers chapter 27, verse 14. We're going to be doing a lot of going back and forth because he's taking them back and forth, and because for us, being removed from our history and disenfranchised, I'm going to assume just like I had to go back and read all of this to refresh my memory, we all need to. Okay, so Numbers chapter 27, verse 14. Because he's going to be jumping back and forth through history, and it's not fair if we don't know what he's referencing. Because he probably said a lot. He's saying a lot in a little bit because they already knew, and they were just having their memories refreshed of what had already happened.
Okay.
So Numbers chapter 27, verse 14. For ye rebelled against my commandments in the wilderness of Zin, in the strife of the congregation, to sanctify to me at the water before their eyes, that is the water of Meribah in Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin. And Moses spake unto YHWH, saying, let YHWH, the Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, which may go out before them, and which may go in before them, and which may lead them out, and which may bring them in, that the congregation of YHWH be not as sheep which have no shepherd. And YHWH said unto Moshe, take thee Joshua the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay thy hand upon him, and set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight, and thou shalt put some of thine honor upon him, that all the congregation of the children of Israel may be obedient. And he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall ask counsel for him after the judgment of Urim before YHWH. At his word shall they go out, and at his word shall they come in, both he and all the children of Israel with him, even all the congregation. And Moshe did as Yahuwah commanded him. And he took Joshua and set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and he laid his hand upon him and gave him charge as Yahuwah commanded by the hand of Moses. So he's saying, okay, you've got Moses and Aaron, and he's going to move on to Saul. He's talking about him and Saul in that moment, but he's comparing it to how Yah, when he had leaders, after a leader was getting ready to pass on or move on, he would set up another leader. But the leader had checks and balances.
Right.
And it's something that he's reminding them. Just because he's the king does not mean he's not still held accountable to the same standard of all the other leaders of Israel. You're calling it something different because that's what you want. But in Yah's eyes, whoever I set up as a leader is still required and still held under the same checks and balances as the other leaders. So he has this leader sitting here saying, okay, so you've chosen, this is what it's going to be, and he's going to run down this whole thing, but he's reminding them, this is how it was. I'm not changing anything, and this is how it's going to be moving forward. Okay.
Good.
So he says, Moses and Aaron brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. Verse 7. Now therefore stand still, that I may reason with you before Yahuwah of all the righteous acts of Yahuwah, which he did to you and your forefathers. When Jacob was come into Egypt, and your fathers cried unto Yahuwah, then Yahuwah sent Moses and Aaron, which brought forth your fathers out of Egypt, and made them dwell in this place. And when they forgot Yahuwah, their Elohim, he sold them into the hand of Sisera, the captain of the host of Hazar, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab. And they fought against them, and they cried unto Yahuwah, and said, we have sinned, because we have forsaken Yahuwah, and have served Baalim and Ashtaroth, both. But now deliver us out of their hand, and we will serve thee. Okay, so this is where we're going to do this little walk down memory lane. I'm going to start with Deuteronomy. Let's start with Exodus 22 and 4. And then we'll kind of move around because it's all going to fit contextually. Exodus 22 and 4. So I want the Exodus 22 and 4 is to reference what he said when he asked them, have I defrauded you? And he got that from Torah. He wasn't making up something. It says, if the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. So he was working in Torah. He, at that moment, was like, I'm going to give you back. If I stole, I need to give it back to you. This is how this is reconciled. Okay? Deuteronomy 8 and 8. We're going to look at what it looks like to forget and how we were reminded as a nation not to forget. Verse 1. All the commandments which I command thee this day shall ye observe to do, that ye may live and multiply and go in and possess the land which Yahuwah sware unto your fathers. And thou shalt remember all the way which Yahuwah thy Elohim led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou would keep his commandments or not. And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man doth not live by bread only. Heard that somewhere before, huh? But by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahuwah doth man live. Thy raiment waxed not old upon thee, neither did thy foot swell these 40 years. Imagine walking for 40 years and your feet never swell. Our feet swell just standing up all day. Right? Right? And their clothes never got old. Thou shalt also consider in thine heart that as a man chasteneth his son, so Yahuwah thy Elohim chasten thee. And we talked about to forget, you have to be chastened or reminded to get back on the right path. Every time they went off, he put them back on the right path. That's love. People are like, oh, God's so angry, and he just did that to the people. No. That's love. If you're off and I remind you to get back on the path, that's love. Evil is to watch you go off and be like, oh well.
Where'd you go?
Right? We wouldn't do that to our own children.
Right.
If Jaden already started walking toward that street right now, somebody, you wouldn't even have to be
Whoa.
your child. You'd be like, hey,
Yeah.
get back over here.
Mhm.
Right? That's love.
Right.
Hate is, cars come through here at 60 miles per hour. Let them walk out.
Ooh.
Let them stand in the middle of the street.
Mm.
That's them.
Yeah.
No, that's not how Yah
Mhm.
does. Verse 6, therefore thou shalt keep the commandments of Yahuwah thy Elohim to walk in his ways and to fear him. Therefore means because of everything else I just mentioned is your reason why you should. So because he brought you out, because of all your clothes didn't wax old, your feet didn't swell, he fed you, he fought for you, and he chased you. He's shown you that he loves you. Because to a Hebraic mind, this would have been the way that a father would have shown that he loved his children. It would have clicked. Father clothes his children, he provides for them, he chastens them, he keeps them on track. And so what do children do to parents who love them? They love them in return. So he's saying because he's loved you and he's shown you this way, then you should return that love. Right? And by the way we return it is, therefore thou shalt keep the commandments of Yahuwah thy Elohim to walk in his ways and to fear him. Right? For Yahuwah thy Elohim bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks, of water, of fountains, and depths that spring out of valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, and vine and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of oil, olive, and honey, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness, thou shalt not lack anything in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills thou may diggest brass. When thou hast eaten and art full, then thou shalt bless Yahuwah the Elohim for the good land which he hath given thee. Okay. Beware, verse 11, that thou forget not Yahuwah thy Elohim in not keeping his commandments and his judgments and his statutes which I command thee this day. Lest when thou hast eaten and art full, and hast builded goodly houses and dwell therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold multiply, and all that thou hast is multiplied, then thy heart be lifted up. Because he said, I humbled you, right?
Right.
So now your heart be lifted up, and thou forget Yahuwah thy Elohim, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who led thee through that great and terrible wilderness, wherein were fiery serpents and scorpions and drought, where there was no water, who brought thee forth water out of a rock of flint, who fed thee, going back to it, like let me go a little bit deeper.
Okay.
Who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers knew not, that he might humble thee, that he might prove thee to do thee good, and at thy latter end. And thou say in thy heart, my power and the might of mine hand have gotten me this wealth. I did it. Oh, look at this. Nebuchadnezzar, look at all this out here.
Yeah.
Look at all that I've done for myself. But thou shalt remember. He's going, forget, remember. Forget, remember. Forget, remember. But thou shalt remember Yahuwah thy Elohim, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. And it shall be, if thou do at all forget Yahuwah the Elohim, and walk after other Elohim, and serve them, and worship them, I testify against you this day that ye shall surely perish. As the nations which Yahuwah destroyed before your face, so shall ye perish, because you would not be obedient unto the voice of Yahuwah, your Elohim.
They forget when they get lifted up.
When you get it, don't we all know? When you don't have nothing, if I just had a car, I'd be a Shabbat. Next thing you know, you're at the beach. You're at the I'm too tired to drive. I don't really feel like driving. Oh, how you forgot when you said, you know what? That's a noble thing. You want a car to get to Shabbat. You get a car, you don't even want to go. If I could just find a fellowship. I would be there all the time. Then you find a fellowship and you're like, you know what? Actually, I'm just tired. Actually, I'm just going to do a little something here. I'm just going to do. And then you say, if I just had enough money, I would. If I just have a home, I open up my home and then, I don't really. You know what? I'm tired of company. And last time,
So when they get
It's-
lifted up,
As soon as you, right, he's like,
not
okay, here, let me give you what you asked for. You know what? That's in my will. I want you to be hospitable. I want you to be, and then you get it. And he's like, okay, then when you've eaten and you're full, the next thing you know, it's like, oh, no, I'm not. Actually, you start worrying. It's like, wait, you forgot you didn't have nothing. You forgot you didn't have nothing. Now that I'm asking you to do what you should be doing with what you have, now you're acting like it's yours to do something with. You didn't, remember you didn't have it. Then I gave it, so it's mine. And then now you hold on to it.
Right.
Guess what? I won't give you anything else. Right. It's just like a child, like our children. They say, can we go to the store and can I get a snack? Sure.
Mhm.
Can I have one?
No.
No. You didn't have.
Right.
I went and got it,
Uh-huh.
gave it to you because what you wanted, and then I asked for a little bit. I asked you to do what you said you do. I'll share with Jade if you give me.
Right.
All right, give Jade some. Okay, you give her. You gonna break her a piece of a piece.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and so y'all
I'll
saying
shove
the
it all
same
in
thing.
my mouth.
I'm gonna give you more than you could
Right.
ever given yourself. And then when I ask you just to be obedient so that I can keep giving to you, then you say, oh, no, I just want to hold on to this right here.
Yeah.
Well, the nature of things is that they run out.
They run
You
out.
use them. It's the nature of whether it's bread,
Money.
whether it's the dwelling, the house has to be patched up. So then the house gonna get raggedy. Then you gonna cry. Oh, my house is falling apart.
Oh,
Yeah, y'all gonna be like, oh, really? So if you would have kept to what I asked you to do, then your dwelling would be blessed. Oh, my cattle and my sheep are dying. If you would have did what I said to do, then your sheep and your cattle will be blessed. Didn't I say that? So
Yes.
the chastisement is a reminder of, see, I'm not blessing the things that I gave you because Yah keeps the things he gives us, meaning
Right.
surrounds and puts a hedge of protection around them.
Mm.
The things he gives us when we're obedient, he keeps the devourer away. You're not obedient, he allows the devourer in so that you can be reminded of your hedge being missing. Why is everything going crazy? First mind should be, ooh, let me think of what I told Yah I was going to do. He's chastising you or chasing you or reproving you, reminding you so that you can remember that you forgot. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. 1 Samuel chapter 12. Let's go back to it. So he goes, oh, how soon you forget. Judges 3:7 says, so the Israelites did evil in the sight of Yahuwah. They forgot Yahuwah, their Elohim, and served Baal and Ashtaroth.
Right.
So let's see if Samuel is going to tell us the same exact thing. Because he's going through history. Verse 9, and they forgot Yahuwah, their Elohim. He sold them into the hand of Sisera, captain of the host of Hazar, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of king of Moab, and they fought against them. Verse 10, and they cried unto Yahuwah Elohim and said, we have sinned because we have forsaken the Yahuwah and have served Baalim, Baal, and Ashtaroth. But now deliver us out of the hand of our enemies, and we will serve thee. And Yahuwah sent Jerubbabel. Do we know who Jerubbabel is? Who is he? Gideon. And Bedan. Some people say that's Barak. And Jephthah. And Samuel. And delivered you out of the hand of your enemies on every side, and ye dwelled safe. Okay? So let's see if he's done it. Not just in recent history, but see if Samuel got old, he just rambling, or if he actually was on point with his history. Judges 3:12. Once again, the Israelites did evil in the sight of Yahuwah, so he gave Eglon, king of Moab, did he say the Moabites came? Power over Israel because they had done evil in the sight of Yahuwah. Judges 3:31. After Ehud came Shamgar, son of Anath, and he delivered Israel, striking down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. Judges 4:2. So Yahuwah sold them into the hand of Yabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his forces was Sisera. Didn't he named him by name?
Yes, he did.
Shar.
We going to the next one.
Who lived in Harosheth Hagoyim. Judges 10:7. So the anger of Yahuwah burned against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines and the Ammonites. How many times? See, we only look at the big times when they're sold into slavery. When you're reading, we fly over, oh, okay, they're fighting. This had happened every single time. Yah is not slack in doing what he said he was going to do.
Right.
So he's like, he raises up a leader, go get him, put him in bondage, chastise them so that they know to call on me. We're living in that very time. We have been scattered to the four corners of the world because of our disobedience, and we are now remembering why. It doesn't matter when you remember, sooner better than later.
Right.
We probably wish there had been some people
Sooner.
before us that remembered so we could be restored. But we're remembering in this generation why? Because he's showing us what we're learning today is his pattern. When we remember,
And call on him.
he is going to do it. And the interesting thing is, he's going to do it because of a reason. We're going to get to that. He does it, and he's done it over and over again. So why not now? Is it not a thing that's coming? If he did it when they were in the Philistines, and they were in the Hens and the Ammonites, and the Moabites, and the Amorites, and the Jebusites, why?
Wow.
Then he has to do it now too.
Yes.
If the part of prophecy that's interesting is that if he doesn't do it, then we're not his people.
Right.
That is the litmus test.
Uh-huh.
The test is, okay, you're my people. You're calling on me. When we call, does he not do it? When we call,
Right.
when we turn, when we walk, does he not?
Yes, he does.
And that is the thing that makes the nations around tremble, because there's nothing anybody can do when Yah decides that he's going to show up for his people. Nobody. You can't protest. You can't.
Nothing you can do.
There's nothing. Okay? And he raises up leaders to do it.
Right.
Okay, so 1 Samuel 12 and 15. But if you, oh wait, let me go back. Yeah. Let's keep going with 1 Samuel. So 1 Samuel 12, 11, and he sent Jerubbabel and Bedan and Jephthah, Samuel, and delivered you out of the hands of your enemies, and you dwelt safe. And when you saw that Nahash, the king of the children of Ammon, which had already been defeated before, right? You called on him. He took you out of their hands. When you saw he came against you, you said unto me, Nay, but a king shall rule over us when Yahuwah, your Elohim, was your king. Because, see, their function of a king was different than our idea of a function of a king.
Right.
Their idea of a king was, we want somebody who's going to fight for us, who's going to command the battle to go, the people to go out. That was a function that had already been set up, though. I read to you Joshua, and he said Joshua's going to go out, he's going to command you, and by his command you're going to come in and go out. Moses did it. Aaron was a leader.
King.
Exactly. You were trying to replace Yah after all that he has done for you. So he's reminding them.
Right.
And he says, verse 13, Now therefore, behold, the king whom ye have chosen, and whom ye have desired, and behold, Yahuwah has set a king over you. If ye will fear Yahuwah and serve him and obey his voice, and not rebel against the commandment of Yahuwah, then shall both ye and also the king that reigneth over you continue following Yahuwah your Elohim. But if ye will not obey the voice of Yahuwah, but rebel against the commandment of Yahuwah, then shall the hand of Yahuwah be against you, as it was against your fathers.
Right.
Doesn't change. You and your king. Your king
Right.
is not exempt. And it's a good framework to lay down, because there's going to be things that happen later on with kings. And because of a Western Greco-Roman mind, we think that kings are above the law. Kings are under the law, just like everyone else. So they're held to the same standard as the law.
Right.
And so they are ruled over as well. Okay?
Yeah.
So it says, if you and your king, not if y'all mess up, no, you guys are in this together.
You mess up, they mess up.
What was interesting is that Yah had given them judges over the people. That had not been a strange thing. People to rule over them, to tell them what was right. That's something that has happened throughout our history. Remember in Judges chapter 8, when Gideon, Jerubbabel, had subdued the enemies, and they said, well, why don't you be a king over us? Remember that? And he said, I will not rule over you, nor will my son. Yahuwah shall rule over you.
Right.
He understood his position. I'm fighting. I'm allowed to do what I'm doing.
Right.
But Yah is the one that's ruling over you, not me. Okay. In 1 Samuel 12:14, we read that about fearing Yahuwah. And Joshua charged the Israelites about fearing Yah and serving Yahuwah. So in Joshua 24:14, he says, Now therefore fear Yahuwah, right? And serve him. To fear and not to serve It doesn't mean that you don't fear.
Right.
Fear him, reverence him, and serve him in sincerity and in truth. Cast aside the Elohims of your fathers, who your fathers served beyond the Euphrates and in Egypt, and serve Yah. Right? Lamentations 1:18 says, Yahuwah is righteous, for I rebelled against his command. Listen, all you people, look upon my suffering. My young men and maidens have been led into captivity. He's reminding them based upon what had already happened. The same thing is going to happen to you. If you think it's not going to happen to you, you have deceived yourself. Okay. In 1 Samuel 12:15, he says, but if you will not obey Yah's voice. Okay. So let's see what Yah has to say about that from before. Leviticus 26:15. If however you fail to obey me and to carry out these commandments, and if you reject my statutes and despise my ordinances and neglect to carry out all my covenants and so break my covenant, let me finish it off.
So 12, 15,
Leviticus 26.
Okay.
16 now.
26 and 16.
Which column dyslexic? I wrote it down somewhere else.
I also will do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror, consumption, and burning ague, that shall consume the eyes and cause sorrow of heart, and you shall sow your seed in vain, for your enemies will eat it. And I will set my face against you, and you shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and you shall flee when none pursue you. And if you will not yet for all this hearken unto me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. I'm not going to ease up.
No.
But one of the things that people are having an issue with in this land, and not to make this at all political because it's not that. You upset about being in a land where people hate you. But Yah said, I will put you in a land where people hate you. Why? Because of your disobedience.
Right.
We're very much divided in that because you want to now hate the people that hate you.
Right. That's what I said.
You all off base.
Right.
You're
No.
here.
You
They don't even have
yourself
anything
first.
to do with it outside of, like, literally, it's
This is
over
their
as quick
position.
as you understand who you are.
Right.
They can only do what they've been allowed
Allowed
to
to
do.
do.
Scripture does say that they advance his anger. I was angry just a little bit, but ooh, y'all took it real
Yeah.
far. And now there's punishment for them as well. Just like every other nation that the Israelites were in the hand of, Yah destroyed that nation. So instead of trying to fight and buck against the nation, you get obedient.
Get yourself right. Yeah.
You can't fight against the enemy that Yah put over you. You're acting like these people chose to be your enemy. Yah chose them to be your enemy. He chose a fierce enemy on purpose because your sin was fierce.
But then our sin multiplies, and we stay angry. Like just like you were saying, it's like you stay angry, and then you're basically forcing their hand to press harder, because now they're doing everything in their power, whatever they from times old, to continue to keep us oppressed.
He says it. And if you will not yet for all this hearken. So after I put them over you, you won't hearken, which means to stop. Stop. It's like you're struggling in a battle you're not gonna win because I put them over you because I knew that they could whoop you. Because I'm not for you. Anybody can whoop you when I'm not for you.
Right?
And so he says, if you will not for all this hearken unto me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. See, people don't want to take responsibility for what we have done to cause the punishment. And how we, every single time, we cry out, Yah goes, okay. And then you go right back. And you say, okay. And then you go right back. And if we follow if we follow the trend of it, it has happened. That's why this last captivity, and especially this day, where this is not the first time people have awakened to who they are. This is the time. This is the time when it's supposed to happen at this level where it's being advanced. But even in the advancement of it, we're still doing things to bring shame to Yah's name. We're still acting in our own power. We're still acting in our own pride. When people come to us and we're trying to share the word and they cuss us out, then we turn back around and cuss them out. It's not about them. They're here to provoke you to stay in bondage longer. You're missing it. When David went out to fight Goliath, And Goliath was out there, and he was like, he started cursing.
Cursing,
We can send
Yah.
a stick out here. Who is this? Who is Yah? Did David go, you know what? Let me just go off on Goliath. He's like, I ain't gonna talk no more. I'm gonna feed you to the. I'm going. Yah is going to use me as an instrument to feed your body and theirs. And we don't even talk no more. Talking stopped, and Yah was allowed to act. There's so much talking, and sometimes when we talk too much, we misspeak. And then profane Yah's name, and then sent everybody else back.
David could have stayed back there fussing with his brothers.
He could have, like, you just out here trying to, you know what?
Mhm.
I hear what y'all saying. I hear what y'all saying. Yah has me here to do this. We have to, and Samuel is a perfect example of this. And there's no better person up until this time to give this speech because he kept his blinders on. Remember, Samuel did something, I wouldn't say, I would compare as far as greater or less, but Samuel did something that Moses didn't do.
He didn't tap the rock twice.
Moses tapped the rock.
Twice.
Samuel kept the blinders on. He watched history. He saw these people can be frustrating. He served Yah. And that is that place. Now, obviously, Samuel had this little group. Moshe had all these people and a mixed multitude of people, and they had been doing all kind of stuff they didn't have no business doing. So, believe me, as a human, we all understand. But Samuel had learned from the past. And when it was his turn to walk before Yah, he walked before Yah blameless. And even the people were able to say that he walked before him blameless.
Right.
And so in that same respect, as we turn, and we're supposed to be turning our hearts back to Yah in these last days, we have to be able to walk before men as a light. Nobody had anything bad to say about Samuel. And that is the function that we have. He said things that were harsh. He made judgments that were harsh. He had to do a lot of difficult things, but at the end of the day, everybody knew that it was Yah. So often we get in the way of what Yah is doing, especially in this awakening and in this movement. Right. I don't even call it a movement. In this awakening, as Yah is moving and stirring the hearts, there's so many people interjecting their convictions or how they feel into the space, and we're not doing our job. Our job is reconciliation, restoration, humility, obedience. Anything outside of that, we're above our pay grade. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, even, and I think it's hard because a lot of people, we have people who are functioning at all different ends. And I tell you, I don't get into the business of how Yah chooses people to function.
Right.
But I know one thing, that when we're functioning for Yah, no matter what comes out of our mouth, at the end of the day, a person should be able to say, yeah, but they said this, and it was consistent. But whenever we speak, and then we interject anything outside of what has already been rehearsed by our ancestors, and we begin to bring ourselves into it, then it throws off the trajectory of how the message is supposed to go. Because now we have to defend ourselves instead of the word just standing on its own. This is like a lion. Let it out, it defends itself. Okay? All right. So, for 1 Samuel 12:16. Now therefore stand and see this great thing which YHWH will do before your eyes. And literally once again, Yah is rehearsing, and I'm going to tell you what day it is when we get to the part. Cool part. So, but Moshe, Exodus 14:13, Moshe said the same exact thing. But Moshe told the people, do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see YHWH's salvation, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. Exodus 14:31. When Israel saw the great power that YHWH had exercised over the Egyptians, the people feared YHWH and believed him and in his servant Moshe. So Yah is not only reminding them of something he did in the past, but in this very moment, he's going to reconfirm. He said, let's go reestablish the kingdom. He's going to reconfirm Samuel as his messenger in this time. All right, so he says, stand still. This is Samuel talking. In verse 16, it says, now therefore stand still and see this great thing which YHWH will do before your eyes. Verse 17, is it not wheat harvest today? I will call unto YHWH, and he shall send thunder and rain, that ye may perceive and see that your wickedness is great, which ye have done in the sight of YHWH, in asking you a king. What is wickedness? Anybody want to answer?
Something bad, evil.
Wicked.
Something that's against Yah. Dysfunction.
Something against Yah.
Dysfunction. Mhm.
Dysfunction. I'll give you the word. Anybody else? Anybody?
good for nothing.
When you wicked, I said you going against Yah.
Going against Yah.
Unpleasant, unhappiness, evil, displeasing.
So, exactly. Wickedness is evil. See, we don't see disobeying Yah as
It's
evil.
That's right.
We don't see it as wickedness. We're like, oh, I just messed up. You don't see it as working against Yah's way.
Iniquity.
Right? So, Ra is Resh Ayin.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally means to, it's what happens when, it's like to watch the enemy or to look at the experience. But the idea is when an enemy comes into a camp, what they would do is they would strip him and put him in a space and they would watch him so that to see if he was going to do anything. And you become an enemy of Yah when you're wicked. And so Yah has to strip you of everything. I'm going to prove it because he does it to the Israelites. And he's like, you stand there, don't move. Right? Because I got to figure out what side you're on. And the way that Yah figures out what side you're on is that from that moment forward, once I have put you in that position, I've exposed you, how are you going to move forward? Okay?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You say keep on.
He says, stand still and see. So he says it's wheat harvest. Wheat harvest takes place, anybody know?
Coat or May and June, and then it's 2 harvests.
May and June. May and June, and it's Shavuot.
Shavuot.
Wheat harvest at Shavuot. And so what they are, the feast that they are at, or the time period that they're in, is at the wheat harvest. And the speech he's giving is almost identical, as I'm reading you all this stuff, about the same things that Moshe was saying to the children of Israel when Yah was establishing his covenant with them at Mount Sinai.
Wow.
He's doing the same, rehearsing the same thing. Lightning, thunder, rain. He's bringing to their remembrance. The same Yah from then is present right now.
Thing the same time, all the time.
All the time. He always operates in the same way. Like I tell you, he's not serving up new meals if you haven't eaten the last one. Put some foil on it. Put it in the refrigerator. You're going to eat this.
Bringing it back to you.
Bring it
again.
Right back around.
Yeah.
And so they're at Shavuot. They're in the same period of time. And so everything that our ancestors did was based upon our feast days and our cycles. There weren't like these, it wasn't random.
Nothing new.
So the fact that they were in this time, he said, come, let us go renew the kingdom. You don't think that they knew what time it was?
Right.
And as he stood there and renewed the kingdom, he says, now thunder and rain are going to come. Why is this such an odd to the people? Because thunder and rain don't come in May, June.
Oh,
That's the dry period. So you knew
it
was something that was coming at a time where it wasn't, because the early rains come in spring, the latter rains come in the fall for the crops. This was out of season. And so, it's interesting because there's a verse, and he says, I wrote it down. It was a psalm.
Paraphrase it.
He says, isn't it a strange, is it just as snow doesn't come in summer?
Right.
And rain, or snow doesn't come in summer, and rain in harvest, so the fool will not understand.
Wow.
So he's like, even if I show you these things and they happen, here it is, Proverbs 26:1. Let snow in summer, like snow in summer, and rain at harvest, honor does not befit a fool. It don't go together.
Right.
Snow in the summer doesn't go
Don't
together,
happen.
and rain at harvest doesn't go together. The whole purpose of the fact that we're harvesting is that the rain has stopped. You can now harvest your
crop.
It was something that was happening that Yah was trying to set an example with. Okay? So they're going and they're renewing the kingdom. And so Samuel called to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah sent thunder and rain, verse 18. And all the people greatly feared Yahuwah and Samuel. And all the people said unto Samuel, pray for thy servants unto Yahuwah, thy Elohim, that we die not, for we have added unto all our sins this evil that we asked as a king. Didn't they just say all that before?
Right.
And then Eglon the king came. Oh, okay, I know we serve Baal and Ashtaroth. Forgive us. We've asked this horrible thing. Oh, okay. It's the same thing. Jeremiah 15:1, and I love the prophets. Jeremiah, this one's a good one. He says, then Yahuwah said unto me, Yah's talking to Jeremiah, he said, Even if Moshe and Samuel should stand before me, my heart would not go out to this people. Send them from my presence. Let them go.
Not my sight.
When it gets to the time of Jeremiah, which is, a prophets later, y'all was like, oh, y'all forgot. You had Moses. You had Samuel. Yoshua said the same thing. He was like, man, Moses already testified against me. If we got here and you don't know who I am, you're not going to know.
Right.
You
You don't know
never
nothing, you ain't gonna never know.
And we're entering into that period right now where people are like, man, if y'all would just do what?
What do you gotta do?
What do you have to
Again.
do?
Right.
He's preserved you. The enemy sought to wipe us out in the transatlantic slave trade. We're here. We're in the land of our captivities, awakening, reading a Bible that our eyes will be put out for reading, studying scripture in a language that we didn't know before. And Yah's opening up the word to us so we can be obedient. Y'all don't have to do nothing else. He's done his part, and our job now is to be obedient.
Dude,
You just have to respond. Now you remember. Oh, and when you remember who you are, and when you thinketh who you are in the land of your captivity, didn't he say it's going to happen? Then do, not then wait.
No,
Then start doing.
and
You have a
they
whole
start doing the same
doctrine.
thing they already did.
You have a whole doctrine of people out there, which is so interesting to me, who say that we can't be obedient to Yah in the land of our captivity.
yeah.
So what about when they were in the land of the Ammonites? And they turned and they cried and they asked Yah, and then Yah came and delivered them. And what about when they were in the hand of the Philistines and they turned and they cried and they asked Yah to deliver them? And what about when they were in the hand of the Moabites, in the land of the Moabites, and they turned and they cried and they were obedient and they asked Yah to deliver them? How can we at all show Yah that we're ready to be redeemed or delivered if we don't start at least trying to be obedient? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Why would I pick you? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What was that you said the other day? It was like, yeah, just go ahead and just keep on heaping into your destruction. So I'm going to keep digging in the hole away from where the light is instead of turning back around and following the light to get out of the dark. I'm just going to keep digging deeper.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. The best thing you can do is stop.
Please.
Hearken. When you hearken, it's
Stop.
funny. Jade is super sensitive, and like they'll be doing something. Stop. And she. But when Yah speaks to us, we don't even flinch. I'm working on another devotional, and I was writing one this week. I'll share part of it with you guys. And it says, I was doing a thing with sound. And most of the time I was going through this little thing with sound, and most of it showed me some things. And he said, I have a sound. And I was like, okay. And so he's like, go back to where my sound is. So I'm going to go and I'm go back to Bereshit in Genesis, and it says, and it in English it says, and the voice of Yah came in the cool of the day in the garden, right? But the literal translation is the sound of Yah. See, everybody thinks they've heard the voice of Yah, and oftentimes you're just hearing your own self talk to yourself. But when you want to tell yourself something good, but Yah has a sound, and when Yah's sound comes, right, the proper response is to respond to it, right? But what happened when sin gets in the way, when we hear Yah's sound, we run from it.
Right.
Because, rightfully so, sometimes, because if you stand and you turn around to the sound and you end up face to face with Yah, it might kill you, especially when you're in your sin. Now, of course, Yah knows that, right? So, what Yah showed me said, when I call, your natural response was supposed to be to come. Just like he said, like, why are you hiding? Right? But then you heard Samuel, when Yah called, he came every single time. And he called him as a child. And the interesting thing with that, and the interesting with where we are as a nation, as a people, is that I have stuck to this, and it'll probably be the thing I say until I die. We're too busy adulting. See, because a child is not afraid of his parents' voice.
No.
But the older you get, and when you start being sneaky and doing something you gotta be, and they call you, you scared me. Why did I scare you?
Right.
What you doing if you're on a business doing, right?
Right.
But when you're a child and when you're constantly waiting to be called, then you're waiting to respond. And so remember Eli said, go, wait, call, respond. And so the Most High showed me something. He said, you guys are less afraid to hear the devil's voice than mine. And I don't mean you no harm. So I'm calling you, and you're running from my voice because you know to come to my voice, something's required of you. Whether it's chastisement, because when you call your kid like, come here and get a whooping.
No.
Don't you run from me. If
Uh-huh.
you run from me, it's going to be worse. It's better to come get the chastisement so you can continue on with what you were doing than to run from me and then put yourself in further bondage. Right? So the Most High said, he said, more people can confirm that they've heard the adversary's voice than they can say they've heard mine.
Right.
And we've been in this setting. People say, how do you know when you hear Yah? And my response, how do you know you heard the devil?
Right.
You know you heard him. Now, if I asked you, have you heard them? You'd be like, a lot.
Uh-huh.
But if I asked you, have you heard Yah? You'd be like, I thought I did. We don't know his sound. And so one of the things that Yah is reestablishing is, let me go back and rehearse to you who I am, how I function, so that when I speak to you moving forward, you know who I am and what's required of you. I'm never gonna I'm never gonna stop reminding you of who I am, and we'll get to why. Okay. So the rain came just as it came in Mount Sinai. I remember it shook and it quaked, and they were like, "Oh no, we don't want to. Don't talk to him for us.
Moses, we'll hear from you."
So
Don't
literally
let
the
him
same
talk
exact
for us.
thing.
Because we
And
scared.
people said, "Pray for us, so that we don't die, for we have added to these sins in asking for a king." And Samuel said unto the people, that's 1 Samuel 12, verse 20, "Fear not, ye have done all this wicked. Yet turn not aside from following Yah." That's something that the adversary tries to get us to do. When we've done dysfunction, the adversary is like, well, you messed up. Might as well just keep going down that road. And what Samuel reminds him is, yes, you've done this wickedness. Don't get so discouraged that you get so down that now you become a pawn to the enemy. He likes you when you're down. Because then he can keep you down. Because then you wallow in your pity because this is going to be difficult for people, but when you get so stuck on something you've done, that's pride at that moment. Oh, you expected more of yourself?
Right.
You thought you were better. You thought more highly of yourself than you ought to.
Not just show
Scripture.
Right. And so now at this moment they've been humbled. Now that you're humble, now Yah can then use you. Now Yah, he says, so now that you've known you've done this wickedness, now don't keep doing the wickedness. Don't turn from following Yah. Now even more so serve him because you've done this. And he says, and Samuel said unto the people, fear not, turn ye not aside from following Yahuwah, but serve Yahuwah with all your heart. The Shema, right? And he says, and turn ye not aside, for then should ye go after vain things. If you stop following in your moment of being brought low, then you're going to follow vain things, which cannot profit nor deliver, for they are vain. They're empty. They're nothingness. And so, keep going. For Yahuwah will not forsake his people for his great name's sake, because it hath pleased Yahuwah to make you his people. It don't have nothing to do with you. If you would just stay out the way and do what he asks you to do, you'd be in a much better position. Deuteronomy 11:6 says, 1 Kings 8:57. May Yahuwah our Elohim be with us, as he was with our fathers. May he never leave us or forsake us. He's now confirming them. Like, you know what? Yes, you've done all this wrong, but let me show you where Yah's heart is toward you, even in your state of wickedness. And he said in Psalm 94:14, for Yahuwah will not forsake his people. He will never abandon his heritage. Psalm 106 and 8.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I know, Siri.
Don't
Psalm 106 and 8.
How did she do that?
Yet he saved them for the sake of his name, to make his power known. Isaiah 48:11. For mine own sake, my very own sake, I will act. For how can I let myself be defamed? I will not yield my glory to another. You can't mess it up because it's not about you. But I'm going to constantly keep bringing you back to this place of humility until you learn to follow me. I will bring you low so you know who you are, So you know who I am.
Right.
Now follow me.
Now do.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah 14:21. For the sake of your name, do not despise us. Do not disgrace your glorious throne. Remember your covenant with us. Do not break it. And then Samuel says to them in 1 Samuel 12:23. Moreover, as for me, Yah forbid that I should sin against Yahuwah in ceasing to pray for you, but I will teach you the good and the right way. So Job 28:28 says, and unto man he said, behold, the fear of Yahuwah, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs 1:7, the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Don't nobody like to be called a fool, huh?
No.
Deuteronomy 10:21. He is your praise, he is your Elohim, who has done for you these great and awesome wonders your eyes have seen. Joshua 24:14. Now therefore, fear Yahuwah and serve him in sincerity and truth. Cast aside the Elohim your fathers served beyond the Euphrates and in Egypt, and serve Yahuwah. Psalm 126:2. Then our mouths were filled with laughter and our tongues with shouts of joy. Then it was proclaimed among the nations, Yahuwah has done great things for them. Ecclesiastes 12:13. When all has been heard,
Let's hear.
the conclusion of the matter is this: fear Yah and keep his commandments, because this is the whole duty of man. How do we remember them? What has Yah given us as tools to remember? Numbers 15:39 says, these will serve as tassels for you to look at, so that you remember all the commandments of Yahuwah, that you may obey them and not prostitute yourselves by following your own hearts and your own eyes. The reason why he gives us tassels is so that we wear them and they serve as a reminder of obedience. I've heard people say, well, only men have to wear them, only women have to wear them. Everybody's sinning, so everybody needs to wear them. Everybody needs to remember. Everybody's forgetting.
Right.
So it can't be, oh, only men need to remember Yah's commandments. Everybody needs to remember Yah's commandments. So gird yourselves up with the tassels as a reminder of what we're supposed to be doing. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. Deuteronomy 4:9. It's Shema, right? Only be on your guard and diligently watch yourselves, so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen, so that they do not slip from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to your grandchildren. I picked up the translation, but you see how it, so that it doesn't slip. It is easily slippable. There's so many other things going on. Samuel, once again, is an example. If he had not kept his eyes on Yah, he would have learned how to defraud like Eli's sons. His sons even went crooked. He kept his eyes focused, and he didn't allow, he kept Yah's word before him. That's the thing that keeps us in these last days. Because there's too many things that exactly. Deuteronomy 8:14. Then your heart will become proud, and you will forget Yahuwah, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. If we don't do these things, we don't read and rehearse to our children and to ourselves. By rehearsing it to our children, we are rehearsing it to ourselves. And Yah says to do it to your children. Why? Because you have to tell children things over and over. So you need to tell them just as many times as you need to hear it, which is over and over and over again. Then guess what they do? The scripture says that as you tell them, they're going to inquire of why. And then that even allows you to go deeper. So as they get older, they're going to want to know more. So you have to keep Yah at the forefront so that when they ask, you have a response for them. And then when the nations ask, we have a response for them. The response doesn't come from a place of pride. The response comes from a place of humility. If I have to tell a person, why don't black people, why can't they just get together? And why are these people, and why do people over here do, and why y'all in South America, and why y'all over here, and why you in Europe, and my response comes from a place of humility, because I have to say, you know what, because we forsook our Elohim,
Mm-hmm.
and we served false gods, and we went after Baal and Ashtaroth, and we kept the feast that your people gave us in this land. And so now we're at a time where even with the ridicule that we're going to get, we have to reject those things, and we have to be reproved and see if we're going to walk with our Father in the land of our captivity, so that we can then receive our inheritance. See how humble you have to be to say something like that?
Yeah, you do.
But I know I gotta humble me, because
Yeah.
I give a very humble response, because it shows you that I've done introspection,
Right.
and I know my place, and I have a Father. And believe me, when you see your kid, if you have a kid that gets in trouble, because I mean kids get in trouble, and they're in a room, like, why are you in your room? Well, because my mom told me that I couldn't have a cookie, and so I snuck into the cabinet. And you're like, you know what? I'm a little upset. But the fact that you were able to articulate where you went wrong, now we can move toward reconciliation.
Right.
But if you was like, I don't know, she just always
She's
mad,
so
don't ever want
mean,
to give me
I
no
just come in the
cookies,
room.
and why you in my face asking me anyways? Now you're in trouble for talking crazy to somebody.
Right.
You see how that
Right.
works? How the disposition of your heart is out of
Mm.
place.
Man.
Whoa.
Because see, your
Gotcha.
sin against your parent or your sin against your Abba should soften your heart. Because a kind word turns away wrath.
Right. Yes,
Right?
it does.
Okay, I had a verse that I wanted to bring out. It was in Acts, and I don't know if I actually wrote it down, but it was talking about how
8:8.
huh.
I said, was it? I did some studying last night and asked if it was 8:8.
It may have been Acts 8, but it was talking about when and it was interesting because one of the things I wanted to remind people is, people are at different levels. And when people get to the Brit Kadashah or the New Testament, they often want to think that things
Have changed.
changed. And one of the things, and it was actually Mars Hill. So if anybody knows where that is, when Paul and I believe Barnabas were at Mars Hill, and the people of the land came out, and they were gonna bring a bull and wreaths, and they were going to bring them to Paul and Barnabas. And the thing that he said to them stood out to me, because I wanted to show people that the same thing, in the same way that
17,
was going and
31.
confirming, the same way that Yah was going and confirming 17 what?
Acts 17, 22, 31. Through
The same
35.
way that Yah was going and reconfirming his covenant. Same way Yah was renewing his covenant in what we call the Old Testament is the same way he was here. And the same instruction he gave was the same thing that Shaul said. And one of the things that came up in my study was that people think, okay, that was all fine in there. Obey his commandments, return to his commandments, obey. Don't serve Baal and Ashtaroth, don't serve Baal and Ashtaroth. But people think when it came to the people that had either been scattered and dispersed, or the Gentiles that were wanting to be grafted in and wanting to follow the way of Yah, that they could bring in their own customs and their own ways. And Yah was not holding them to the same standard to reject Baal and Ashtaroth, don't follow the nations around you, you have to be reproved, you have to let it go. And so when I was looking over this, it was interesting how Shaul and Barnabas responded. Because based upon the common religious understanding of what was allowed in the New Testament, when they came to bring their offering toward them, how they would have presented it to their gods, or if they would have, immediately, Paul says something that just totally changes the whole perspective on how people should look at how you're allowed to worship and what is required of you, even in this New Testament. So 17, he goes and it says Paul had disputed in, verse 16. Now when Paul waited for them at Athens, now this is Rome land. This is Japheth's territory. His spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. How can you be given to idolatry? In Paul's mind, if Paul's the one that's saying, no, don't serve the weak and beggarly things of the law, meaning don't do the law, do as you will.
No.
You can eat what you want. You can worship how you want. Yah has given a different covenant to the Gentiles and to those grafted in, and on this side of the cross than before.
No.
Why would he be stirred for them wholly given into idolatry? Idolatry shouldn't exist anymore on this side of the cross, right?
Right.
At all.
Therefore disputed he in the synagogue with the Jews and with devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him. So they're like, oh no, he must just be talking to the Jews. See, they can't be in idolatry on this side of the cross.
No.
Wait, you were just saying that these people were Judaizers because they were still
Keeping the law.
keeping the law, but then you have Paul telling them, how can you be in idolatry? Right? So is
Right.
Paul a Judaizer? I don't know. So he says, verse 18, then certain philosophers of Epicureans and the Stoics encountered him, and some said, what will this babbler say? Others some, he seemeth to be a setteth forth of strange gods, because he preacheth unto them Yahushua and the resurrection. And they took him and brought him unto Areopagus, saying, may we know what this new doctrine which thou speakest? For thou bringest certain strange things to our ears, and we would know therefore what these things mean. Tell us what they mean. For all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else but either to tell or to hear something new.
Mm-hmm.
Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. Shouldn't we be allowed to be superstitious on this side of the law?
No.
If all the old things are done away with?
No.
Right?
Mm-mm.
He says, for as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with the inscription, to the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you.
Mm.
God that hath made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is master of heaven and earth, dwelling not in temples made with hands, neither is worship with men's hands, as though he needeth anything, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things, and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of their habitation, that they should seek Yahuwah, if haply they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. For as much then as we are the offspring of Elohim, we ought not to think that the Yahhead is like unto gold or silver or stone or graven by art of man's device. So is he not telling them not to make graven images and thinking that Yah is likened to these graven images, just like Yah said not to do in the Old Testament? And the times of this ignorant, the times of this ignorant Yah winked, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. So before you didn't know what you were doing, so he's like, you know what? But now
I'm a wink.
you need to repent.
Right.
Why would they need to repent?
Because
If they were not in idolatry,
Right.
if by making graven images and by having these other gods, it wasn't idolatry. Because now, obviously, if you don't know, now people are saying, "Oh, that doesn't matter. You can have idols.
No.
You can set up things. That doesn't. No, I don't believe in them. It's just it's not a big deal."
Yeah.
So he says, "Because he hath appointed a day in which he will judge the world." So he's still in a judging business.
Mm-hmm.
In righteousness, what is righteousness? By that man whom he hath ordained. Wherefore he hath given assurance unto all men, and that he hath raised him from the dead, Yahushua.
Mm-hmm.
And when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked, and others said, "We will hear thee again on this matter." So Paul departed among them. Howbeit certain men clave unto him and believed, among the which was Dionysius and and a woman named Damaris and others with them. That wasn't the one I was looking for though. And let me see. But that was a good one. But that wasn't what I was looking for. He said, there. Because he said
what they do.
they thought he was Apollo.
Oh, okay.
Who, Paul?
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
How y'all doing?
We're good. I just didn't know we were. I didn't know if anybody else was here. Okay. Acts 14. Okay, just a few chapters off, and I won't read the whole thing. But he says, Acts 14 and 12. And so they said they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercury, because he was the chief speaker. And the priest of Jupiter, which was before the city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people.
Mm.
Which when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of, they rent their clothes, right? It's funny that they use wreaths. But anyways, rent their clothes and ran in among the people crying out and saying, Sirs, why do ye these things? We are also men of like passion and preach with unto you that ye should turn from these vanities. So he's like, why would you go and then sacrifice with wreaths and bulls when we came here to tell you to turn from doing those things? And he says, from these vanities unto the living Elohim, which made heaven and earth, and the sea and all things that are therein, who in times past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways, who in times past allowed all nations to walk in their own ways.
Not now.
Nevertheless, he left not himself without witness in that he did good and gave us rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, fulfilling our hearts with food and gladness. And with these sayings scarce restrained they the people, that they had not done sacrifice unto them. So literally he was like, in the times past.
Yeah.
But now there's a witness, and now you know better, so you can't continue in the way you were doing. So I said all that to say the same things that Yah required as he moved and sent his people out to these other nations, they were putting them into the same covenant that had been required back here.
Wow.
The same way. He's saying, you need to hear Yah. You need to fear him. You need to walk in his ways. You need to do according to his ways. Now you have a witness. I'm standing here as a witness against you. Please don't.
Right.
Do what you're getting ready to do. He winked at it before because you
did.
didn't have a witness. Because Paul also talks about how the commonwealth of Israel was not known to the Gentiles. The commonwealth of Israel was Torah. So he sends his messengers into these nations to teach them the right way, not to conform. And when I send you amongst these people, even us now, we're not supposed to take on the way of the heathen.
Right.
We're supposed to be redeeming our people and them out of these cultures.
Right.
And so it's something to be noted that no matter what side, as it's said in many religious circles, of the cross you're on, the same things are required of you. And it's to not forget. If you don't know, ask.
Right.
Because there's no sin, you don't get a pass for ignorance. We have the full testimony. We know what's being said. And now you can't go into this thinking one way. It's interesting, as people often ask, how can you see that on this side? Because I'm not thinking that y'all change. If I change my mind and think completely Hebraic all the way through this book, then when you read Paul, you'll see the same thing.
Right.
Because it's right there. I didn't change anything. I'm reading the regular old Hebrew to Greek, keyword, study Bible. I don't have anything special over here. Mine says Lord and God and Jesus and everybody else's. I just see it differently. My eyes are allowed to see it differently. I read it differently.
Right.
Because I can see through the holes where people say, oh, they were allowed to do this. And they were not. They were held to the same standard. If you want to be in covenant, you're coming into covenant just like everybody else. It's the same law for the stranger. It's the same law for everybody that stood before you. I think I have verse. We'll end with this one. And we'll end here. Siri wants to talk a lot today.
I know what's going on.
She's just, she's excited.
I'm not sure I understand.
We know. Deuteronomy 29, and that's where we're in. Because this confirms, one, that the same thing that Samuel said, same thing that Jeremiah said, same thing that Moses said, same thing that Joshua said, same thing that Yeshua was going to say, same thing Isaiah said, same thing we're saying right here today stands true and stands firm. We'll start verse 1. These are the words of the covenant which YHWH Elohim commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, beside the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. And Moses called unto all the children, said unto them, and I think I read this last week too, ye have seen all that YHWH did before your eyes in the land of Egypt unto Pharaoh, and unto all his servants, and unto all his land, the great temptations which thine eyes have seen, the signs, and those great miracles. Yet YHWH hath not given you a heart to perceive, and eyes to see, and ears to hear, unto this day. And I've led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes are not waxing old. Didn't we just read this very thing? Your clothes are not waxing old upon you, and the shoes of your and thy shoe is not waxing old upon thy foot. Ye have not eaten bread, neither have you drank wine or strong drink, that ye may know that I am YHWH your Elohim. And when you came into this place, Sheon, the king of Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us unto battle, and we smote them. And we took their land and gave it for an inheritance unto the Reubenites, and to the Gadites, and to the half tribe of Manasseh. Keep therefore the words of this covenant, and do them, that ye may prosper in all that ye do. Ye stand this day, all of you, before YHWH your Elohim, with your captains of your tribes, your elders, your officers, with all the men of Israel, comma, your little ones, your wives, thy stranger that is in your camp, from the hewer of the wood unto the drawer of the water, that thou shouldest enter into covenant with YHWH thy Elohim, and into his oath, which YHWH thy Elohim maketh with thee this day, that he may establish thee today for a people unto himself, that he may be unto thee an Elohim, as he hath said unto thee, and as he hath sworn unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Period. Neither with you only do I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that standeth here with us this day before YHWH your Elohim, comma, and also with him that is not here with us this day, for ye know how we have dwelt in the land of Egypt, and how we came through the nations which ye passed by. Ye have seen this abomination of their idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, which were among them. Lest there should be any among you, man or woman or family or tribe, whose heart turneth away this day from YHWH to go and serve the gods of these nations, lest there should be among you a root that beareth gall and wormwood, comma, and it shall come to pass when he heareth the words of this curse, that he bless himself in his heart and say, I shall have peace, though I walk in the imaginations of my heart to add drunkenness to thirst, YHWH will not spare him, but then the anger of YHWH and his jealousy shall smoke against that man, and all the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and YHWH shall blot out his name under heaven. But the part that we were resting on, but I had to read the rest because it stood for the stranger, the hewer of wood, the woman, the children, the water, and even those who are not here this day. This covenant is for those who stood there, and it was written into the covenant. It's just like a law. When you write a law out, we live in a nation of laws. You're written into the law, even if you didn't want to be.
You're still in your daddy's
So you still are held by the same thing, just like we talked about the 13th Amendment and how it's legal slavery based upon using the prison system. The same exact way it was written before you got here, but it still reigns true for you now. The same way Yah's law, you were written into it before you even knew it, and you are still held accountable. Stranger, hewer of wood, child, woman, man, elder, chief, it doesn't matter. The same thing reigns true from now until forever.
And you remember who those were? The hewers of the wood and the drawers in Joshua 9.
Yep. The people who came in who said
came with the victuals and the wine and came they had traveled
traveled far
and they made a covenant with them.
Right.
So he didn't leave nobody
even
out.
The people that we make covenants with,
they
just like
we say,
they have to follow the same rules. So the same way with Yahushua, right? If you're saying on that side, okay, our covenant is with the Messiah. Right. Well, if you make a covenant with him, then you're also held and bound by the same rules and statutes that he's made, that the covenant he's under. You don't get to have a covenant with just him and not a covenant with his family.
Right. That don't work.
It doesn't work. The hewers of the wood and the stranger within the gates, if they came in with you, they're held by the same standard of everybody else here. They don't get to have special rules at your house.
No.
It doesn't work like that, right? So Samuel made them reestablish the kingdom based upon Yah's law, and our job at this time in history is to make sure that we are walking in that way, and that as people come in, they see us living out the same exact covenant from then. If we start doing something new, then they don't trust that we are who we are.
Right.
We have to keep consistent doing the same thing so that Yah can be consistent in redeeming us according to the same standard of his redemption. Make sense?
He's not wishy-washy.
No, not flaky.
No, he ain't gonna change it because you want to change it.
No.
Whoa. And you see that in Hebrews 12 too, the whole chapter, the sum of it, this thing, this whole thing. Since we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses.